Lillian Rogers is suing her ex-boyfriend's parents, Jody and Robert Denniston, for insurance money after her property was destroyed in a fire.
Court can order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 3054, Rogers versus Denniston.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Ms. Rogers, let me see if I understand what your position is. You were in foster care for a long period of time, and at some point you met the defendant's son and became involved with the defendant's son. In what year was that, and how old were you?
June of 2019, I had just turned 18.
And I assume that you either decided to or you had aged out of the residential foster care system, and you were invited to live in the defendant's home.
Yes, ma'am.
And you lived in the defendant's home from June 2019 until when?
Until October of 2021, when the house fire occurred.
And what were you doing between 2019 and 2021?
As in occupation?
What were you doing? Were you in school? Were you working? What were you doing?
I was doing full-time school, and then I had a couple of jobs here and there.
What full-time school?
Was in school to become a social worker for foster youth.
In what months were you in school and year?
August 2019, all the way up until now.
Okay. And who was paying for your school?
The state of California.
Are you almost finished with a degree?
Yes, ma'am.
What school?
I'm going to Stanislaus State in Turlock.
Is that where you were going to school when you were living with them?
I went to a junior college with them, and then halfway through living with them, I switched to Stanislaus State, which is 4-year.
Were you receiving housing subsidies from foster care or just tuition for school?
The last 3 months up until I turned 21, I was receiving house subsidy.
And how much were you receiving from the state as a housing subsidy?
I only got $1,000 3 times.
Did you use that housing subsidy to give any portion of that money to the defendants?
I used a portion of it. They had requested $150 a month.
Starting when?
Starting October 2020, they started requesting $100 a month in order to pay for PG&E, gas, electricity.
And did you pay it?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, this is the lawsuit. There was a fire in the house, and it is your claim that $6,000 worth of your property was destroyed. You had no renter's insurance.
Correct.
And it is your claim that the defendants used receipts that you had given them to put into insurance, and they were reimbursed by insurance for your claims, but never gave you any money.
Correct.
That's what the case is about. My first question is, how do you know they were reimbursed for your claims?
I had submitted any and all receipts for the insurance company. In September of 2022, I had broken up with their son in December of 2022. So a couple-month time span, I knew that they were moving into their house about 2 weeks after the fact that I had broken up with their son. So after they had moved into their house, after everything was refurnished and rebuilt, that's when I knew that they had gotten paid out.
Well, I'm just asking you, do you have any information from the insurance company that part of the claim, such their bills that were in your name, that part of the claim was actually paid to the defendants?
I had a Google Doc form that the Dennisons had sent me a little bit ago, and it was just them stating that this is how much they think that I deserve from the fire. I believe deserve is the correct word.
Maybe I could take a look at that.
And then I also have all the receipts and everything that I had submitted to the Dennisons.
I may look at that too, but I would like to see the first document that you discussed.
There was actually 2 documents that they had sent me.
I'd like to take a look at them. What's this truck money?
That was on a separate case, Your Honor.
What do you mean it was on a separate case?
I had filed with small claims court 2 separate cases against the Dennisons, one against Mr. and Mrs. Dennison, one against their son, Bryson Dennison.
What's the truck money is my question.
I had bought in him a truck, and then we had totaled the vehicle, and he still had owed me money on it, but I allowed him to get a different truck with the reimbursement from the insurance.
What happened with that case of the $3,300?
It still hasn't got paid to me yet.
What?
It still has not got paid.
Have you gone to court with it?
No, not yet.
Are you scheduled to go to court?
Yes,
with it?
ma'am.
When?
On the 29th of this month.
And that case is not against the Dennisons, that's against their son.
Yes, ma'am.
That's you?
Yeah.
Okay. This says this makes everything final and done with this payment. We're not talking about the truck. $2,803.17. That's what you said that her items were worth.
Correct.
Did you pay her that?
No, because she did not agree to that amount.
Just a second. But that's what you offered her. $2,803.17.
Correct.
In
Lillian Rogers claims her ex-boyfriend's parents, Jody and Robert Denniston, owe her money from an insurance claim after their home was destroyed in a fire.
what is this broken items, hole in the wall of being paid with washer and dryer that we didn't take out of the house? They were Rob's sisters and given to their son for use, value of at least, what is that?
That's regarding the second case, Your Honor. I was being
That
the
has
mediator.
nothing to do. All I want to know is this whole document that you gave me has to do with a lot of other stuff.
Correct.
Yes,
I was the mediator between the two of them.
Okay, but the $2,800 was for the fire damage,
Correct.
for the receipt for the fire damage.
Correct.
And all of this other stuff has to do with the truck.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well then, if you add $2,800 to the $3,300, the truck money, that's what you're suing for here.
No. No, ma'am. I ended up going ahead and printing out all the documents and all the receipts that I had produced to the Dennisons regarding the fire contents money, and I had added everything up. And then I also had their spreadsheet that they had submitted into their insurance company that has my name as well as everybody else in the household's name on it.
Okay. Was any of the property that you lost reimbursed to you by the state of California?
No, ma'am.
Nothing.
No.
What was the date of the fire?
October
First,
1st, 2022.
21.
21.
Well, in June, you ordered things online, and you had shipped to you a body oil moisturizer for $13. This happened in October. You think that they're going to reimburse you for that? It's not happening. I want you to get your act together. That's not happening.
So what we were told from the insurance adjusters was any and all receipts that we had, and I only had online receipts, unfortunately, due to the pandemic.
What?
I only had online receipts due to the pandemic. And
What I'm telling you is,
so I was told to produce any and all receipts I had of everything that we had in the house, regardless if it was 2 toothpicks or
oh, well, that's not
a
happening.
mattress.
That's not happening. Not happening. There was a fire in the house, Miss Rogers.
Yeah.
The insurance company paid for the family to go to a hotel.
Yes,
Is that
ma'am.
right? Did you contribute to that?
I paid my rent.
For how long?
I continued paying it until we left.
While you were in the hotel.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right?
Yes, she paid the $150.
How did you come up with the figure of $2,800?
It was in one of the insurance documents. It had listed in red on that form that she gave you, the depreciation of value. I had added a bunch of those items that she showed you on that first document that had Lily's name on it. It came to that amount minus the depreciation amount, and then that was the actual cash value is what they actually paid us.
May I see that in writing? That'd make my life a lot easier and I don't have to go through
It's
this.
a huge document that I have on my email.
Okay.
Okay.
Did you share that document with her?
Did I share it? No.
Okay, I'd like to take a look at it. Where are you living now, Miss Rogers? Where are you living now?
I'm living technically in a barn right now, but it's a refurnished barn. And then to add clarity, I would like to mention that I said to add clarity, I would like to mention that as far as my knowledge is, the Dennisons, they had replacement insurance, which means that their depreciation value didn't matter as long as I went and purchased the same item and then brought back receipts to the insurance company.
Well, that may be them, not you.
Oh, absolutely.
That may be them, not you. You're not an insured. You sound like a smart gal. You were living there. You were paying rent. There was no negligence that caused this fire, I would assume.
No, ma'am.
On October 29th, after the fire, you bought an iPhone Pro Max
Yes.
for $1,200.
Yes. So From my understanding of a house fire, the only thing that burnt down was the garage. However, there's fire damage, there's fireman damage, and then
I want to know what happened to your phone.
Is smoke
You had
damage.
your phone.
Yes. So as far as the smoke damage, any electronicals and
No. What happened after the fire on October 1st?
Yes.
You moved into a hotel.
Yes.
Did you use your phone between the time of the fire and October 21st? That's either a yes or a no.
Yes.
Okay. Then you had no right to buy another phone for $1,200.
Yes, ma'am. So according to the insurance agency, as well as the firemen and the police department, anything electronical within the house, the stove, phones, computers, anything else.
Not happening for you. Not happening for you.
Okay.
I don't have to see it. I just made up the difference. Yeah, I've just made up the
I
difference.
also have a list of items,
I went through enough of this to see where we're at.
and she did receive money from the state. My daughter, who's here in court, was a witness to her receiving gift cards from the state, from social services, to replace her items that were lost in the fire, such as clothing.
Did you receive any gift cards from the state?
No, ma'am.
I assume you were friends while she was living there?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me your first name.
Kaylee.
Tell me about what you know about receiving gift cards from the state.
So the social worker came over to the house and was giving her a gift card to, it was either like Kohl's or JCPenney's, one of the sorts, which Lily then...
Just a second. Did you see the amount of those gift cards?
I did not see the amount, no, ma'am.
Easy. What was the amount of the gift card?
I did not receive any gift
Was a
cards.
social worker at your house?
The only time she's ever visited the house, which was in, I believe, August of 2021. That's the only time she's ever been to the house.
When we were living in the Airbnb, the social worker did come after the fire had occurred. She came over and then...
Do you remember what the name of the social worker was?
I do not.
Sit down. Stand up. I get...
Lillian Rogers has accused her ex-boyfriend's parents, Jody and Robert Deniston, of owing her money from an insurance claim. Jody and Robert say they tried to pay Lillian, but she is being greedy.
Tell me your first name, please.
Bryson.
Bryson, did you, while you were still living with Miss Rogers in the hotel or thereafter, after the fire, did you discuss with her any subsidy that she received as a result of the fire from the state?
No.
When, for the first time, did you ever hear about these gift cards?
It was when the lawsuit was filed. She never told me about any of that.
She never did.
No.
And neither did your sister.
No.
Good. Very good. Sit down. Thank you. Okay. Just show me, would you, for a moment, what you're referring to with regard to the depreciation value of the items?
The depreciation value?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought
And how you got to the $2,800, which I think is probably reasonable.
It's on that big file that's downloading.
If I may, Your Honor. So everything that I had in receipts right there is just everything that I had purchased online, not talking about anything that I've ever purchased from within the home for the Denistons, for myself, anything in store. Me and Kaylee Deniston, we were quote unquote shopping buddies, and we'd go shopping every single week.
I don't care. All I'm telling you is, I looked at one major charge. There were charges for $13 for hand moisturizer and toothpaste that go away.
Yes,
You know, you use them up, but you had no reason to go to Apple to buy a new phone for $1,200 in a service plan. The fact that an insurance company person indicated to you that if there was a problem and if there was smoke, you can replace electronics, doesn't mean they're going to pay for it. And until you can produce evidence for me, and there's nothing here, that you put in claims for $6,000 and they got $6,000, which you cannot establish in what you gave me. Do you understand? I get a little bit leery when bills are, bills are padded, especially when these people took you into their home, you lived there 2.5 years, you paid a nominal rent, you bought an awful lot of stuff, which means that you spent your housing, the $3,000 that you were supposed to spend in, and I don't know what other monies you were getting from the state, because you had to get some money to live.
No, ma'am. I had aged out of foster care, and I was not eligible for any benefits outside of foster care besides the last 3 months of me turning 21. And by that point, I had to rebuy all of the items I've ever had because everything I've ever owned was in that house.
I know the feeling. I was just saying, I know the feeling. We lost everything in our home too.
So that's where that $3,000 went to.
It's still downloading. What document I do have is her list, and I itemized what was hers, what was a gift, and what was not. And that's what has the totals on the bottom. No, I don't have that. It was like 2,000 pages long.
Could you explain to me, I'm just curious, why are there 4 items here for iPhones?
That's what she's claiming, that she had bought all those phones. That's the list that she had given me of items that she had receipts for.
There were 1, 2, 3, 4 phones
No,
on
ma'am.
this.
I only had turned in the receipts for Bryson Dennison and I's phone. However, on our account, there was the other 2 phones within the home. It was still within the home.
Just a second.
So they got ruined.
Just a second. Are these items that you listed?
Those are the items with the receipts I helped produce to the Dennisons, correct?
So these are items that you said you should be reimbursed for.
Not me personally, because I didn't buy 2 of the phones.
Which 2 did you buy?
I only bought the first 2.
The 2 expensive ones for $2,500.
Yes.
Goodbye. $2,800, which is what they offered you. That's what you're getting. Goodbye. We're done here.
This court is adjourned.
I'm glad that I was awarded something. It is unfortunate because I did lose everything that I did have in the fire, but it's okay because we can always rebuild and renew and everything else in between.
I still felt like we didn't owe her anything because she didn't have a renter's policy. She wasn't on our homeowners, but I agree.
I was alone in the house with their son, and it was a pretty scary experience. Thank goodness that a couple of us were home, so not everything in the whole house was tarnished. They were able to keep a couple of their personal items, so that was really nice.
I'm a little hurt. I opened up my heart, my home, my family, are just good nature, and to have this happen, it's heartbreaking.
They absolutely did help me out, and I do appreciate them for everything. Unfortunately, there's a backstory to everything, of course.
I'll still continue to help people. It's our good nature, it's what we do as human beings.
But there's her side, his side, his side, and the truth. And what's right is right, and what's wrong is wrong, and not giving me my portion is wrong.
She's just a greedy little brat. Entitled.
At the end of the day, if they're keeping my money, isn't they're trying to be greedy?
It seemed like the defendants were really cared for the plaintiff, allowed her to move into the house, had a good relationship, didn't even charge her any rent until they decided that they had adult children that should start contributing to the home, and they included her in with their own children in the responsibilities to pay a nominal amount of rent. So it's always tough in situations like that when we see plaintiffs such as this one suing people who you and I look at as their saviors. You gave you a warm place to sleep, they fed you, you had a roof over your head, all of these things that they lost everything too in the fire. I don't think that they were unreasonable. She went with them to the Airbnbs and the hotels afterwards. They didn't leave her out on the street. So I couldn't imagine suing somebody after all of that unfolded.
No, it's probably had to do with a very bad breakup of the relationship that they had with the son. But I think the bottom line lesson is if you have things that are valuable and if you are a renter, and even though she was paying a nominal amount of money, it's still rent.
Sure.
That renter's insurance, especially if you have very little, is very inexpensive. And you should have it.
Yeah.
And young people don't think about that.
Until it's too late, usually.
Right. You've rented once.
And even I was ignorant to the fact that you should have renter's insurance, and I was lucky that nothing like this happened, but having now seen the different scenarios that can unfold, definitely in the future, I'll get renter's insurance anywhere I rent.
Smart.
Yeah.
Zachary Martin is suing his neighbor, Nancy Morrell, for property damage after his car was vandalized.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2151, Martin versus Morrell.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Martin, you and the defendant are neighbors.
Yes, ma'am.
How long have you been neighbors?
Moved into the subdivision in 2019.
That's how long you've been there?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know how long the defendant has been there?
I think 2014.
Is that right?
2017, Your Honor.
Oh, okay.
And where do you live in respect to one another? You want to go over there and show me?
I live in this house right here. Or I did. I don't anymore. This house right here. And she lives right here.
You sold your house?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and the defendant
She lives right here.
where the blue car is?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. This is sort of a circular area, and from the circular area, you pull into your driveway. Is that right? Okay. It is your claim that the defendant keyed your car.
Yes, ma'am.
And when did this happen?
January 22nd, 2022.
The defendant says that she did not key your car. She has a counterclaim. She claims that she was falsely arrested and held overnight in jail.
That is a lie.
But just a
Okay.
That's her claim, that she was falsely arrested, that she spent a night in jail. She had to hire a lawyer, did hire a lawyer after her lawyer requested several adjournments. You were not, at least physically, in the courtroom at the time of the last adjournment, and the case was dismissed. So let's go back to prior to January 22nd. I assume that if you're alleging that the defendant keyed your car, that you have some negative history with each other.
Yes, ma'am.
Starting when?
There are so many. I mean, it started out when we did the subdivision. They were nice at the beginning, no issues. And then the kids started having, her granddaughter lives with her.
Okay, how old's your granddaughter?
She's 9 now. She was 8.
Okay.
They started out having some issues, as kids do. I mean, you know, that happens.
You have a child of a similar age?
Yes, ma'am. She's 11 now. She was 9 or 10 when we lived there.
And the two children had an issue?
I mean, you know, kids argue.
No, I understand that. I'm not going into who was right and who was wrong in the kids' argument. I don't really care. But when did that argument between the two children spill over to the neighbors?
Well, I guess the final straw was Labor Day weekend of 21, the Sunday before the Labor Day. We came home late. It was about 7 o'clock. We were working, and we told Jillian we were going home for a little bit, and she said, I want to swim in the pool. I said, all right.
Jillian is your 10-year-old?
Yes, yes. And of course, she said, well, that's boring, Daddy. I want a friend to swim with me. So I said, okay, one friend. That's it, because your brother's going to watch you, and then we're leaving to go back to work. So she goes next door to Patrick's house, which is the next door neighbor, and she asked Patrick to come over and go swimming. He comes over. At the time, I didn't know this. At the time,
At the time, the defendant's granddaughter was there.
Yes.
At Patrick's house.
Yes.
Got it. So your daughter went over and invited Patrick to come and swim.
Right. And not.
You had told her that she could have one friend in the pool. So Patrick left to come swimming, leaving your granddaughter alone.
Well, she had to go home.
She had to go home.
Yes.
She came home.
So just a second. Okay. That's what happened. Okay. You had a grandchild who had hurt feelings. I assume
she actually went over to go swimming. She thought she was invited too.
You had a child with hurt feelings.
And I went to ask what had happened.
Okay.
That's this big hoopla.
Okay. Now, your grandchild comes home. I assume she was upset. Was she crying?
Yes.
Okay. And that was about what time?
In the evening. I honestly can't remember.
Okay. And when she came home crying, tell me what you did.
Went out and, honey, what's wrong?
What did you do?
Are you okay?
Yes, and she told you what happened.
She said, I went over to Jillian's. She invited us swimming. And when I got there, her dad said only one person could swim.
Okay.
So she came home.
Okay, and what did you do next?
That's not what happened.
I talked to her, calmed her down, and I went over and said, hey.
You know, just a second. You walked from your house, where the blue car is.
Yep, around the corner.
Did you take your granddaughter with you?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
She's lying.
And what? Shh. If you do that again, I'm just going to dismiss your case. Do you understand that? And you know, it's easy.
I got it.
This isn't my case. It's your case.
I know.
So you walked alone to his house. Did you knock at the door? Did you go outside? I want you to tell me exactly what you did.
I don't remember if I went to the front door, or I went to where the pool is, and I do believe Mr. Martin was out there.
Okay, so Mr. Martin was out there, and you said it in that kind of a calm tone?
What happened to my granddaughter? Why is she crying?
Well, she told you why she was crying when she was home. She told you she was crying because she went over there to swim, and Mr. Martin said you can only have one person swim with you.
Which is totally out of character. The children swim together all the time.
You mean at Mr. Martin's pool?
At Mr. Martin's pool, and if they need another adult,
just a second.
I go.
So they swim all the time in Mr. Martin's pool. So you wanted to know what happened on this occasion when he said only one person can swim.
Yes.
And you said it in just the same kind of conversational tone that I'm talking in, is my question.
I was very calm at the beginning, yes.
Oh, okay. And so you said to him what happened, and what did he say to you?
I don't remember exactly. It was to the effect of his son was going to watch them, and he could only have one child in the pool.
Right, that he wanted his son to have responsibility of only watching one other child other than his sister.
Correct.
Right, well, that sounds reasonable.
And that's fine.
Just a second. So how did it escalate? He said, I only wanted one child in here. My son's going to watch the kids. We have to go back to work. And that should have been it. Why wasn't it?
I don't know.
Zachary Martin claims his neighbor, Nancy Morrell, keyed his car and owes for the repairs. Nancy is countersuing for a false arrest and lawyer fees.
Now let's get to your version of what happened. Okay, so you said only one child. Her granddaughter went home. Her granddaughter, who's a little girl, is upset. Why can't I go swimming too? I got that. And?
This is a lie. Everything she told you is a lie.
Just a second.
She did not come to my house.
Just a second.
She did not come to my house.
If you say again it's a lie, I'm going to dismiss your case. Do you understand that?
Yes.
I asked you what happened.
She did not come to my house.
Okay.
Her daughter came to my house.
Just a second. You mean her granddaughter's mother?
Yes. I never talked to her.
Before my daughter went over, I had gone over.
She did not.
Oh, no, just a second. Yeah. Now I don't believe you, Miss Morrell. Now I don't believe you, madam. I watched your eyes. I just watched it. Now, uncross your arms. So, her daughter came over first.
No,
Yes.
I
Well,
went
she
over.
never
I don't want to hear you.
She never came over. The daughter came over. She bypassed my front door and went to the side gate where the pool is. She told my son to go get me.
To go get you?
To go get me. I came out and she called me a jerk. You should let her swim in the pool. Blah. I just told my daughter, look, you can have one friend because your brother's watching you. It's not fair for him now to watch 3 kids. Just 2, that's all. I told her, I said, look, I don't know what you're talking about. I said she could have one friend and that's it. She proceeded to call me a jerk. She said some other choice words I'm not going to repeat, in which case I did cuss her out and told her to get off my property and not to come back again, anybody in her family, or I would file trespass charges.
Okay, and that was on the Sunday before Labor Day?
Yes, ma'am.
And when did this incident happen with your car?
January 22nd.
After that incident on Labor Day weekend, did you have any other contact with the defendant?
Yes.
When?
So I think it was right after Jillian's birthday on November the 21st. I think it was like a week, like December the 1st, I think. And this is really sick, but it got to the situation where she would watch my kid. And every time my kid would go to Aubrey's house or Patrick's house, she would take toys, she would unpack her stuff. And I told her, I said, look, you can't play with her. So they would wait 10 or 15 minutes till she got unpacked and get all comfortable, having a good time. She would send her granddaughter over there. She had to pack her stuff up and come home. She would come home crying many times. So then it got to the point where Patrick, he would come over to our house. He'd be over to our house all the time. They would get on trampoline, play video games, blah, blah, blah. So I was doing something one day, and then the camera went off, and I give me a look at my iPad. Here comes Nancy up my driveway. She knocks on the door, and she says, can we play? And I said, no, you can't play. Get off of my property. File trespass charges if you come back. That was, the last time I interacted with her. Until she keyed the video.
Well, it's not my job to be judgmental in a social way, but I have to tell you, I would have handled it a little differently with her. She wasn't the one who behaved badly. I wouldn't visit her daughter's bad behavior on an 8-year-old. There are kids who live right around the corner from each other, and it seems to me that the bad behavior of a parent or a grandparent shouldn't impact on a child. The granddaughter is a nice little girl.
Well, if you say so.
Is she?
Well, she spread rumors about my daughter and said that, she told Aubrey that my daughter stole some of her toys, and that was a lie.
Okay. All right. Well, it sort of started to get nasty. Now let's get back to the keying of the car. So that happened in January. So tell me about the January incident.
Okay. So she got up January 22nd. It's a Saturday. She decided to walk her dog. She's walked her dog.
Go over there. Show me what you saw.
Okay. So she decided to walk her dog, and so she walks up the sidewalk.
Well, you didn't see that.
No, not right here.
No, you didn't see that.
When she gets about right here, which is Patrick's house, the mailbox is right here, you can see in the video. That's when the cameras detect motion. That's when I get the alert. So I see her walking the dog, and she's walked her dog past my house many times, but never gotten that close to my vehicle. So immediately I thought something.
Where was your car?
My car is parked right here.
In the driveway?
Yes, ma'am. So she walks the dogs, and she is